One thing I think I noticed from studying this book, and I'd say you've seen it as well, the anxiety that has come over teenagers, it does feel like I give a whole kind of chapter, not only to anxiety, but a whole section to fear and rigid thinking, because fear and rigid thinking is so big these days, if you follow
Yeah.
me. It feels like there's a lot of reasons why, but social media is huge. COVID hasn't helped. All the emphasis on professionalizing problems hasn't helped. The medicalization of all the problems hasn't helped. The combination of it has made for a very frightened generation. I can see
Yeah.
why. It is a nerve-wracking to feel your social media presence is being judged at all times. It is pretty nervy being a teenager. I don't think they're having it easy.
No, and especially what you mentioned earlier about the kind of milestones, like part of what teenagers are supposed to do is branch out and start taking risks a little
Yeah.
bit, being a little rebellious or trying things that are a bit on the dangerous side. And if you are concerned, and teenagers are also super self-conscious, right? So if you're concerned that any decision you make is going to be scrutinized by like 2,000 peers at any moment, good luck with that risk-taking behavior that you're actually supposed to do. So yeah, the anxiety and the fear is just compounded on so many levels. And I don't know if we can understand what it's like to be a teenager these days. Like, it's really complicated. And you talk about that. You say, like, remember how hard it is to be a teenager these days.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you think that we miss it? Because even as a therapist who works with teens, every now and then something will happen and I'll realize like, oh my God, I don't really understand how hard this is. I'm not a teenager now, so I can't know.
I think we do miss it. I do think that it is harder than it has been. And I don't think it was easy when I was a kid. I don't think it was
Yeah,
easy to be a
yeah.
teenager. But I actually think it's harder now. I think the emphasis on their looks, when let's face it, they can be quite awkward looking, their teeth can be big or their shoulders can be big, whatever, you know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
a huge
yeah.
emphasis on vanity. And vanity is the royal road to anxiety anyway. I think I'm very concerned about the level of emphasis on their looks, on their body, on their kind of their attractiveness.
For
The,
boys and girls, or do you feel like that's more difficult for girls?
it's more difficult for girls, but
Mm,
when I was a kid, I suppose many girls were vain. Boys were often quite unself-conscious. The odd boy was, but a lot of them, if you were in the kind of realms of the 70% of you were reasonable looking, you weren't
mm,
thinking all that much about it. But the boys have followed the girls into worrying about their looks rather than the other direction. Rather than the girls following
mm.
the boys seem to have gone into the kind of the girls. So there's a lot of consciousness around their body and their weight and their whether they're strong enough as boys, whether they're pretty enough as girls. And I really think it's a really heavy mantle for them to bear. And I think they're obsessed with their looks. I've seen it with my own kids. It started with, they were completely unself-conscious about their looks. And it just creeps up because every time you turn on Snapchat, every time you turn on TikTok, looks, 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 looks. How you look, all these faces, all this. Where I know I'm very frightened for them. I really think this is a real issue that contributes constantly to anxiety. A kind of feeling of I'm not presenting well enough. It's a branding.
I I don't know if you've seen this, but I think there are some teenagers as they get older, or maybe as they kind of put the puzzle pieces together in their mind, they actually start to shy away from social media and kind of get off of it. Like, I think that might be the new movement before, hopefully before there's a lot of damage done. Do you see that, or are you hearing that from parents that by the time the kid is like 17 or 18, they're like, I don't really use social media anymore?
Yeah. I hope we're right. I know there is a contingent who are definitely saying that. There's a whole other
Mm-hmm.
contingent who are getting lips done at 19 and 20. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah,
there is
yeah, yeah.
there's two different directions it's going. And again, it's polarized, but I love this idea of people. I kind of I wonder what will be happening, in the next
Yeah.
generation. Will we look at kids online and think it's the equivalent of children in the 50s smoking cigarettes?
Yes, yes.
And will we
I
say,
wonder too.
how did we let those kids have such free and easy access? And I write, when I write about it, I'm very kind of, I try to put in practical ideas around have tech-free rooms, have tech-free times. Do you know what I mean? With a
Mm-hmm.
full understanding that we are all addicted. I'm as addicted as, what do they say? Every time you put down your phone, there's a multi-billion industry trying to get you to pick it up. There really is.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
frightening.
believe it.
And I do think we can see it in these kids that they're in this social experiment that effectively social media took off in the last 10, 12 years, and it's really impacted them. And I don't think, sadly, I don't think in a very good way. Now, I know teenagers have loads of opportunities that we didn't have, but I do feel that there's a kind of a crisis going on mentally for a lot of them. Even when they have a lot to kind of be thankful for, I do feel awfully sorry for them. I think a lot of them are in really quite deep distress.